I've been the emotional support without being emotionally supported. I've been the listener that has never been heard. I've been at the receiving end of someone venting their anger, but unable to vent mine. Do you know how painful that is? All my life, I've exercised a great deal of restraint with my parents, with my family, with my pain. All my life, I've just buried this pain, and this is why y'all need to be glad I know the Lord, because if I was a different person, if I was a different person, it'd be up and stuck for y'all. Hello, I'm Deanna, and I'm accompanied by my kangaroo, Jackie. Welcome to Deanna Speaks, a podcast where I, Deanna, speak my mind, the truth, and with others. Okay, everyone, this is my first podcast episode of Deanna Speaks. Hello, and I'm Deanna East. If you don't know me, because many of you might be new to this platform because you've never heard of me, I'm a YouTuber named Deanna. I'm 23 years old. I live at home with my parents. I am a stay-at-home daughter and a recent college graduate. I graduated from UConn in 2023 with a degree in molecular and cell biology. I'm a two-time cancer survivor and an only child. I think one's more interesting. They're both relative. They're both important. And this video is called I Could Easily Be a Supervillain, at least at the time. I don't know what the official title is yet because I didn't post the podcast yet. But so y'all get to know me a little bit more, I really wanted to make a podcast because all my life I've been told that I talk a lot, right? And it's almost like kind of belittling me, like, you talk a lot. But now I'm going to monetize from it because I talk a lot, but I'm not reckless with my words like some people, you know? And I could easily be a supervillain because of all my life. I have a very traumatic life. I just told you I had cancer 2 times in my life, but that was probably like the least traumatic thing that has happened to me. I've amassed several enemies in my life, and I'm only 23. I've amassed at least seven enemies, okay? Yeah. I'm going to put this podcast mic to the side because she's really not giving what she said she was going to give. So I'm just gonna unplug my good sis because she's not doing it the way I thought she'd be doing it, and I'm just gonna let laptop Mike take it away. She seems like she's doing a good job, and I trust her. Okay, only 23. I've amassed at least 7 enemies, and I've had people backstab me, people hurt Jackie. If you don't know, because you might be new, because you're coming from the podcast and not my YouTube channel, Glow in Peace, Jackie has been my best friend since 9 years old. The reason why she has her dinosaur hat on, because this is a villain-themed episode, because I, by right, should be a supervillain, based off all my traumatic experiences, but I'm not. And every villain needs their little henchman, okay? So Jackie has this because it makes her menacing, right? When you look, you're shuddering, that you're shivering. Like you see this kangaroo. Without it, you're like, oh, but with it on, you're like, oh. And if you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and watch the YouTube video because then you'll see, like, you're going to be terrified, shaking in your boots. Like, if you pick a fight with her, that's tough for you. Like, I wouldn't run up on her if I were y'all. Just saying. But being an only child and needing someone for like comfort during cancer treatment therapy, real quick. Well, this is my first podcast, so I can really take my time and explain things. You're probably like, what does this girl mean she could be a villain? Well, let me explain something to y'all. I was 16. I'm gonna I'm gonna walk you through why I have every right to be a supervillain. I was born on September 3rd, 1999, and I was premature. I was the only one of my cousins because I don't have any siblings. So both my families are like huge. My dad has 6 brothers, 7, 8 brothers, sisters. My mom is one of like 9, technically like 10, 11, right? Big families. Out of all the families, I was the only one to be born premature. My mom really struggled to have me. The doctors were like, just give her up. Like, really, I wasn't growing. So I was supposed to be born in November. I was born September 3rd, 1999, 2 months premature, weighing 2 pounds, 1 ounce. I survived. All my life, when I tell you I've had to fight, all my life I've had to fight. Then when I was 16, for those of you who do not know the story, I've had also health complications like asthma, and I've had like benign tumors before when I was a teenager, like when I was 14. And I've just had weird things happening to me. I never had a lot of friends growing up. I was very sheltered. I wasn't allowed to go out. My parents never allowed me to go to the mall with my friends. I really didn't have that much friends to go out with anyway, and I really couldn't do anything. On top of that, my parents were very, 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 very hard on me growing up, and I never even did anything. Like, I never rebelled as a child. I never rebelled as a teenager. I've all my life, I've always just done my best. Jackie, you want to sit? You want to lay down? Okay, I'm sorry. All my life, I've just done my best to do my best. And, oh, sorry, knocked the camera. So when I was 16 and I was going into, I was a junior in high school, and my parents, they have this thing like, you know, you got to push yourself in school. My mom was like, I always have to push you. I'm like, you never had to push me. You never had to push me. I always push myself. And I guess there was like, I was always a smart kid. So going into sophomore year, I went to an all-girls Catholic preparatory school, college prep school, right? So, you know, not a lot of black people. So I'm just obviously in so I guess my freshman year I did very well, made the honor roll, got mixed up A's and like B pluses, so I was doing really well. And I didn't always study because I was smart. I was like, I don't really have to. But then sophomore year, I thought I could do the same thing and get by, and that didn't work like that. So I realized when I wasn't making honors, geometry was, I don't know what the heck geometry was, but it was not it. I don't, shapes, number, it was no. So I was not doing well in geometry. For the first time in my life, I got below like a D in a class, and I've never had a D, and I'm trying my best and whatever. And my parents are like, you know, you got to step it up. And I'm just like, I'm trying. I'm freaking trying. Like, it's hard. I didn't realize I had to put in additional work, you know. So then junior year came around, 16. I'm like, all right, I got to get it together because I'm going to college soon. So I'm going to tell y'all, I made straight A's my first semester. And I told my mom, and I was like, Mom, I made high honors. She's like, wow, that's great, Deanna. And then I made straight A's again the second semester. And she was like, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm like, oh, okay. And actually, it's not like college, so it's broken down into quarters. So first semester, I got, first quarter, I got, like, I think I got 1B. And then second quarter, I got all A's. And then third quarter comes around. By the way, I'm having this pain in my lower left abdomen. Right? So I have all this pain in my lower left abdomen. It comes and goes. It's like, ow. I'm thinking it's cramps. And in about February, I come home from school. My mom picks me up from the train. I take the train home. She picks me up, and because it's a half day because it was going to snow. And I do something I never did. I took a nap. And I came home. I was like, you're taking a nap? I'm like, I'm just as shocked as you are. So I come home, take a nap. Next day, I'm like, I really don't feel well. So my mom's like, okay, I'll take you to the emergency room the next morning. Next morning, I wake up. I feel completely fine. I feel completely fine. Like, and I'm just like, I need it. I'm punching my stomach. Like, you better be like in pain or something, because my mom cannot take off work just to take me, and nothing's wrong with me. So I'll make a whole separate video about the really all the pain of cancer trauma, because it's its own video. But to make a long story short, to sum it up, basically found out I had a tumor. So I spent like 12 hours at the hospital, then running tests. I'm like, I just need to go. I need to go home. I have algebra homework to finish. Found out I had a tumor, and they didn't know whether it was cancerous or not. It was one of those moments where you know nothing will ever be the same. Like, my life is literally a Netflix series. I'm going to explain why more, but just having cancer at 16, it's actually one of the most rare forms of cancer. It's alveolar soft part sarcoma. It is only affects 80 people, less than 80 people in the United States annually. So, like, there's 332 million people in the United States. 1.8 million are likely to get cancer or will get diagnosed with cancer. Zero. So if 80 people get this cancer out of all the cancers out of everyone in the United States, that means it is 0.000000024% of the population. That's not likely. Like, that's not likely. And there was not a lot of information, but I got the tumor. I found out I had the tumor. I celebrated because I didn't want chemo, because I was nervous I was going to lose all my hair. And I'm like, as a black woman, I'm like, the last thing I need to do is lose all my hair. Like, what? So I said, you know what? I was just panicking because they didn't know what it was. They just knew it was something on my psoas muscle, left psoas muscle. I'm like, okay. So I found out it wasn't cancerous. I found that out. And I was just like, we went to TGI Fridays to celebrate. It was my idea. My parents were in shock. I was just like, all I heard was no chemo. I just needed surgery and radiation. So I had surgery. Then I had radiation. I will explain how painful and the issues with them at another time. But then I was like, okay, now it's my senior year. I'm doing well. I'm doing better. Things are going well. Applying to colleges, finish my college essay. I'm getting stronger, going to the hospital for my appointments each month. I think it's once a month or every 2 weeks. It's either monthly. I'm getting scanned monthly. I'm going there bi-weekly to the hospital. And then around this time, my grandmother is dying from cancer. So around this time, as she's dying from cancer and I'm going for treatment, and I had several like missed biopsies. I had two bopped biopsies. Like, they were botched. Sorry, they were botched. Like, it was just like, okay, they were just erring on the side of caution just to make sure. So I had a third one, and the cancer came back. To make a long story short, I don't have time to be dramatic with y'all. Like, I'm telling you, it just came back. It was only 8 months, and they said if it was gonna come back, it would be within maybe 5 years. So I got it, and then 8 months later, I got it again. And this time it was fourth stage. It had spread all over my lung. So what they thought were like, they thought it was walking pneumonia, so they gave me antibiotics, and then it didn't go away. The little, like, the lesions in my lung didn't go away. So then they, that's why they biopsied it. So I'm 17 now. I've had cancer 8 months apart, diagnosed, received diagnosis. It's fourth stage. They really don't offer us. I went to a top hospital. I think I went to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and we went with the top doctors, and they couldn't give us a solution for it, right? So I asked them, if, like, after my parents were done asking them questions, I asked them, if it continues growing, what's going to happen to me? And they were like, well, it's slow growing, but it's definitely growing. So your brain will shut down, your heart, you'll spread to your reproductive organs. You probably won't be able to have children until you kind of just like shut down. And I'm just like, so I cried. I'm trying not to cry. I'm gonna be a thug. I'm a villain, and villains don't cry. So I'm trying not to cry because I've done enough crying to last a lifetime. I've actually had enough negative emotions to last a lifetime. I'm good on that. So I still graduated senior year. My parents decided to go to a naturopathic route, which is why I am alive, because the clinical trials are just that, like, experimental drugs they really couldn't answer. They couldn't, like, there was nothing that they could do. So I went to a naturopathic doctor, which a lot of people, I'll make a whole video on that and why people think it's snake oil this, and it's not, because it's why I'm alive. Like, modern medicine said, screw you and screw you again. Like, what can we do? And my diet completely changed. Everything changed. Boom, graduated high school, still fighting cancer. I started college, and that's when the real battle started. So not the cancer, not the trauma, not being tested, being poked and prodded, not knowing if I was going to live or die, not really knowing if the naturopathic treatment was going to work. Sure as hell knowing that the regular treatment wasn't going to work. Like, that was clear. I started college. I decided to major in molecular and cell biology. And as I'm majoring, it just, the second day of college, I had a mental breakdown. I hadn't really been in a traditional school environment in a while because I was doing a lot of my work at home because, you're fighting cancer. Professors didn't care. I didn't have a lot of friends. I nearly got kicked out of UConn 3 times. Like, I went to University of Connecticut in stores. I nearly got kicked out 3 times because nobody cares that you have cancer. If you come to class, you don't do your work, who cares? No one cared, because ableism, right? That's a whole separate podcast episode. This is like an overview of what we're going to talk about here on Deanna Speaks. So, the heck? Okay, so I started a Christian club at UConn called UConn Set Apart Ministries. It was the only black Christian club because there never was one. And I was like, are you sure? Because I wanted to join one. And UConn has a lot of Christian clubs and a lot of religious clubs, period. But so many Christian clubs. I'm talking this. There's an Albanian Christian club. There's a Korean Christian club. There's a Arabic Christian club. There's so many. I'm like, but none for the black folks? None for the Negroes? Like, what's wrong with y'all? So I'm like, I have to start one. And I felt the Lord saying, oh, like, you need to start. Like, this, if this is something that's on your heart, this is something you need to pursue. So as I'm pursuing it, I met this girl. We'll call her Bridget. I met this girl named Bridget. In my sophomore year. I had spent half my freshman year, second semester of my freshman year, home because I was so sick. And I lost a ton of weight. By the way, I also have an underlying eating disorder on and off for years. Just a lot going on. So then I started college. I'm still fighting cancer. I'm only taking 3 classes on campus to kind of ease my way back to campus life. And they were manageable. I think it was chem, just like Gen Chem. What else? Jackie helped me. It was Gen Chem, human genetics, and sociology. So pretty light, nothing too crazy, So I meet this girl the second day. I meet Bridget the second day of school, and she seems so nice. She's a freshman, and I've never talked about this on my channel, the podcast, whatever. So I meet Bridget, and we're talking, and she's so sweet. How I met her, she dropped her pizza right in front of me, and I was like, ooh. I was at a dining hall, and then we started talking, and I'm like, she's so sweet. So I asked her, what she's talking about, God. I'm like, oh, you're a Christian? He's like, yeah. So I asked her if she wanted to be a part of my club that I'm starting, UConn Set Apart Ministries, and she was like, wow, yeah. I said, you would make a great secretary. So I go and it's a lot of work to get a club at UConn. This isn't not like this. It's not a DeVry University. It's the University of Connecticut. It's a huge school, so you have to go through several applications. You have to have an advisor. So I asked the head of the African American Cultural Center at UConn if she knew any advisors, but she said, I would love to be your advisor. We'll call her Dr. Teals. I don't want to drag Dr. Teals' name through the mud. Dr. C. Dr. C. I asked Dr. C. And she's like, I would love to. And she's like this not old, well, she's like the Southern lady. And she, she's very smart, very bright, very knowledgeable. But so, I asked her, and this is before I knew how people really were. She recommends someone to be a vice president. His name is Jobii. not his name, but okay. His name is Joey. So now it's all coming together. The club, my aunt's friend from her daughter went to UConn, so she became the treasurer. So I'm like, okay, yes, yes. It's all coming together. It's coming together. The first semester of the club, it was a little shaky because it was new, but it was still great. I said, all right, y'all, the first semester of this club, we're going to talk about Christ, okay? We're going to lay this foundation, okay? That's what we're going to do. We're going to lay this foundation, okay? And then we're going to talk about culture and how black culture intersects with Christian and how, God has not abandoned us, but, we are awesome people. And just as, all the Albanians and the Koreans and everyone, they talk about how their culture intersects with Christ. That's what we're going to do too, from a perspective of black culture. And we had all different members of the club. We had Buddhist members, we had Muslim members, we had atheists, like we had everybody. And it was really cool to hear from different perspectives, right? Okay. Second semester came and I'm like, it's going to be great. I'm taking another 3 classes. I think these are more difficult. It's the last sequence of general chemistry, organic chemistry, and psychology. Plus I was a TA for a class taught at the African American Cultural Center. I was like a peer TA, right? So I'm like, all right, y'all, we going to do this culture. They're like, pump the brakes. I'm like, well, we discussed this. And then when I tell you, Joey was the ringleader and Bridget was right behind because she like needed this male validation. Sometimes I feel weird talking about real life because it's like, I wonder how they're going to respond. But you know what? They didn't care that they did this to me, and I'm not going to care. I'm going to speak. I'm going to talk. I'm going to speak. Amen. I'm going to speak because to sidebar, that's the side of grace. I don't want to run nobody's name through the mud. That's why I'm using fake names. But it's like, it's a mark of a good person to be like, I don't want to do. No, because they didn't care when they did it. They didn't care when they did it. So I'm not going to worry too much now. I'm going to get out of my head. Villain. I'm on my villain-ish, okay? Villain stuff. So he would yell at me during meetings. Joey. He's like over 6 feet, football player, big black guy. You're not a Christian. I'm like, dang, you're not a Christian. You don't know who God is. And I'm just like I'm not about to cry. I'm actually like, I'm the type of person when I get like real mad, I cry and I'm like, I will. Okay. I'm like, what if I was not afraid of going to jail? Like, okay. So you're not a Christian. You don't know who God is. God's not here for our culture. And I'm just like, all I said was we need to pray against police brutality as a people. Like, as we're protesting, praying, because prayer works. And that you say that in the word of God says in Christ, there's neither Greek nor Jew. And that's not what you think it means. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that God doesn't care about our race. It means everybody can come to know the Lord regardless of race. Because at the time, only Israelites could come and know God. Like, only the Hebrews had that access. But then when Christ came, he said, it doesn't matter, like, whether you're God's chosen, whether you're all, well, okay. Now, basically, he just said, everyone can come and receive me. You don't, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what race. Not that God didn't still have a chosen people, right? It just means you're not getting to the Father except you come to Christ. So no matter who you are, if you want to get to the Father, you got to go through Christ, right? The intermediate, right? Okay? He said that that's not whatever. He just dismissed that. He was like, no, God used this is divisive rhetoric. I'm like, how? And I said, well, and then I started talking about self-hatred and how we have to undo a lot of self-hatred in the black community because we've been conditioned to hate ourselves, to hate our skin, to hate men, to hate the women. With colorism, we just have to undo that. And that is done like Christ is the center. That's why we started off as the foundation. But we need to address that in a prayerful way, in a very intentional way, and talk about it through Christ, so we can get some real change, and we're not just talking just to talk. And he said, well, self-hatred isn't when black people hate other black people. It's when I myself hate myself. That's self-hatred. And I'm just like, are you slow? Like, are you dumb? And I didn't say that. Like I said, all my life I've exercised a great deal of restraint with my parents, with UConn disability representatives, with UConn people and like administrators in general, with my family, with my pain. All my life I've just buried this pain, and this is why y'all need to be glad I know the Lord, because if I was a different person, it'd be up and stuck for y'all, because I'm very smart. Okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not. I could use my intellect, my wisdom, my knowledge about human behavior through observation and discernment for such wicked acts. Like, I really could destroy someone's life if I wanted to. I have the capabilities. I'm not a plotting or scheming or vindictive, vengeful person. But if I was determined to be so, I would ruin so many people's lives. But that energy would just come back to me. So that's the only reason. Two reasons why I keep my cool. I know it's going to come back to me. 1, 2, I fear the Lord, knowing that it's going to come back to me. And actually 3, because God does repay. And at first I'm like when Medea was like, God be taking too long. I need them to get got right now. Sometimes I still feel like they really just got to wait. Make a long story short, they all left the club. They all abandoned me. They all said I was not a Christian. I'll make a whole podcast about this probably. They said I wasn't a Christian, that I'm divisive, I'm causing a lot of, division. Your club will never stand at a public institution. This is not God's way. I'm clearly not like Christ. By the way, I'm still fighting cancer. I'm failing organic chemistry because I'm so sick and it's hard to go to class. They knew I was fighting cancer, didn't care. So I have all this. I'm trying to fight cancer. I'm passing out. I'm throwing up. I'm dealing with side effects of my treatment, though the majority of it is naturopathic. It still sucks fighting cancer, throwing up, can't eat, eating the wrong thing, just a lot going on. And I cried in my orgo professor's office, and I just ran away. And I was just like, because she was like, you're gonna just drop the class because you're failing and there's just no way. She wasn't offering any help. She wasn't like, I can be here to help you. You know what? All the worst professors I've ever had have been women, right? Because they feel like they have something to prove. All my best professors I've ever had, that's not true. Because I have a great professor who I still talk to, my writing professor. She was amazing. My genetics professor, she was kind. But I'm just saying, the professors I had that were bad were all women. The TAs I had that were like just couldn't care less that you have cancer were my biology TAs. Like they it's like, okay. And I heard when I said turn it in by 11:59, that's what I meant. Like, okay. So you fast forward, my club fell apart. Then I came home and my parents were essentially blaming me, and they were like, see, no one told you to start that club. We told you there was going to be a huge distraction. And then they're like, and then I was on academic probation again because I failed orgo. And my parents were like, we're disappointed in you. And I'm just like, okay. I'm tired. I'm taking classes every winter and summer to make up for the not taking the full 5 courses during the semester, and to make sure I graduate on time, because I legit had a professor who was like, you're going to graduate in 2023. And I was like, the devil is a liar. I'm supposed to graduate in 2021. That's when I'm gonna graduate. And I did. It just costed me severely, but I still graduated. So Fast forward, I graduate college. Then Bridget, we become friends again. So that's the thing. We became friends in between the club and when I graduated school. We became friends again because my mom was not a trusting individual, but was like, you should give her a chance. And she's not a trusting individual. So I'm just like, all right. I listened to her. I'm like, all right. And where she apologizes, we talk, we have several conversations about it. And she explains that she was really jealous. She eventually explained she was jealous of me, right? She saw this upwardly mobile young black woman doing these things, and she was jealous of me that I was still doing everything and I had cancer on top of that. So she, she just said she was jealous of me, and she also said she just didn't want to see me win. And when I told that to my therapist, it always like she said she has never heard that. My therapist has seen the work. Been she's been doing this for a while, and she said I have never heard anybody say that. I don't want to see you win. And yeah, so at the time I was just really happy she was honest with me, and she had changed. She was, I didn't feel like she was jealous. She was very supportive of me. What I didn't know that was it was essentially a mask for what was to come, because what was to come really came in like a mother freaking wrecking ball. Because as I was starting my internship at my church, like the second I was first of all, when I got the internship, I was in the car with her when I got the call that I was accepted, because I decided to take some time between school and take a longer gap year, and I decided to push back going to medical school because I was taking the MCAT prep in the summer. Like when I tell you the day after I graduated, I took this art class it was art appreciation. So I'm like, okay, I had to take this one less class to get just to get it right, my all my courses in, even though I graduated. Um and I'm thinking, it's like, what does this art mean to me? I had to write like 4-page essays every day. I was like, it's art class. It's art appreciation class. So I'm writing these 4-page papers every day for this class. And I'm just like, it's art. It's an art. And then I had to end the semester by writing up, like, it was like a 15, 16, 18 page paper about different things we learned in that month. Then I took a week off, and then I started studying for the MCAT. And the MCAT is the medical school admissions test, and it is very hard. It's like 7 scientific disciplines, and that's not even the worst part. The worst part is they're not going to ask you a question like, if it's not even going to be as complexly simple as, this patient has low iron. What ion do they not have, right? Or or this part of the cell controls, this patient has this wrong with them. What part of the cell is responsible? Do you think is responsible or impacted, right? Because then okay, if they say A, if they say I'm making just arbitrary stuff. If they say it's A, they have a lot of low iron, then maybe their plasma membrane is not working. Maybe the protein that's supposed to bring in the iron's not there, and something's wrong with their plasma membrane. I'm just saying, right? It wasn't that simple. You have to know like every scientific discipline, like you would have to understand the physics, the chem, the orgo, the psychology, all for maybe like one question. And it's just like, okay. Anyway, I took a break from studying that to do this internship. So when I found out I had the internship, we were hanging out and I was in her car, and she was like, yeah, we were both excited. And then leading up to the internship, I couldn't put my finger on it, but like she was texting me, it was fun, and I noticed like she's sad and she has issues. Like the relationship she has with her father is one of, he really wasn't in her life like that. He like was sometimey, and her mom was very like they're both very hard on her, like almost very legalistic from what she has told me. So she was getting it on both sides, and she didn't have that. That's why I was always happy she was around me, because my parents always made her feel loved. We went on vacation together. We just did so many cool things together, right? So as leading up to the internship, I move into the intern house, and I got the big room, and I'm like, I can't wait to like FaceTime her. And I said, can I call you? And when I soon as moved in, and she was like, oh, she was not yet tired. So then the next day I moved in. By the way, she's a year behind, because she actually she didn't get kicked out of UConn because she wasn't doing her work. She just left the university because it was very rigorous and apparently too rigorous for her. And that was shade. That was a little shade. But then again, she didn't do her work. Like, I'd ask her, like, don't you have to study? She's like, I don't want to. I'm like, what, like, she once asked me, how do you just study when you don't feel like it? And I said, you want the secret? She said, yeah. I said, you want the tea? She said, yeah. You just do. Like, the paper is not going to write itself. I will stare at Google Docs and Microsoft Word and just be like, all right, Ann, what's good? Like, come on, get to work. And it doesn't, you got to type, you got to click and clack and get that paper done. Like, there's just no way around it. Like, I mean, of course I had to get several extensions because I'm sick and I'm tired and I'm throwing up, but like, I still got it done. And even then, some professors are like, oh, okay, Ann, you have cancer and COVID at the same time. True story, by the way. I was fighting COVID and cancer, and it just made my cancer treatment symptoms worse. And I had a 103-degree fever, and my professor was like, I will fail you if you don't turn this in by 11:59. No, by like 6 or 7 o'clock. And I'm like, congested, I can't see, I can't even hear, I'm burning up, I'm literally like can't smell anything, can't taste anything because of COVID, and I'm like about to pass out every 2 seconds, and I'm in immense pain typing this paper. Anyway, you just do what you have to do, essentially. And she was like always shocked, like, I'm like, that's the tea, like that is the tea. So I moved into the intern house, and I'm FaceTiming her like, "Ooh, girl, this where I'm gonna put this is where I'm gonna have this." And as I'm talking to her, she's very like this, like very quiet. She's very like, and I'm thinking, oh God, something happened with her mom, her dad. Like, she had another episode with them, and I'm like, is everything okay? She's like, yeah. I'm like, what's wrong? She said, it's about you. And I'm like, me? What about me? And she's like, she starts off by saying, Jackie, what was the first thing she said to me? It's been a while. She said, I don't like the way you say you like your boobs. And I always, as a friend, like my best friend, so I thought at the time, you tell your best friend anything. And I love my boobs. They're one of my favorite features about myself. They're one of my favorite physical features about myself. So I was like, every time I'm just like, I love my boobs. She's like, yeah, they're nice. Or, well, that's cool. And then she's like, I don't like how you talk about how you like your boobs. And I'm like, does it offend you? She's like, I just don't feel like, why do you feel the need to tell me that? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't, because we're friends. She's like, well, you don't have to tell me everything. I'm like, okay. All right. And then she's like, and then she just started nitpicking, like, why do I do this? Why am I always so cheery when I pick up the phone? Like, nitpicking my personality. So she's just tearing me to bits and pieces, tearing me to shreds. And I'm just like, and then she's like, and I just don't like the way Jackie criticizes me. Because back to the work thing, she never did her work. So Jackie would always be like, go study. Because Jackie talks. Just not to y'all, not yet. But she talks. Jackie would be like, go study. You need to go study. And Jackie's telling her this. And like you that's why you fail this class, because you're not doing your work. Jackie keeps it a buck. She just keeps it real. That's who she is. That's who Jackie is. So as she's talking, then she's like pacing. She's like, I feel like I need a therapist right here. I'm like, what the heck? To tell you this. And I'm like, what? What? And she's like, Jackie's not real. When I tell you everything stopped, like I said, for those of you who don't know, Jackie might just be an ordinary dinosaur kangaroo to you. To you. Just a stuffed toy. To me, she's my best friend. My friend, my pal, my little sister, my only child, all those things. And I was like I stopped, because only somebody who knew me could hurt me like that, right? Because if you don't know me and you're like, that's a toy. Like, what do I expect from someone who doesn't know me? But you know me. You spend time with me and Jackie and my family. Like, we've been around each other for about a year. Telling things to, opening up, sharing, being transparent. And you're going to tell me Jackie's not real. It felt like all my experiences, having cancer, being at the hospital, my parents couldn't be in with me while I had a scan. It felt like it invalidated her presence there, and it felt like she just wasn't there. I was by myself, and I was just like a crazy delusional idiot. I couldn't see Jackie as real after that. I hung up the phone. I just hung up the phone. I cried. I'm at the intern house, finally turning a new leaf. There's a new chapter in my life, right? No longer in school, taking some time off from school. And she says this to me, and I'm just like I cried. I called my mom, and I just cried. I was like, how could she? It was such a betrayal, because it's like, you could have called me ugly. You could have said I was like, my face is toe to hell up. You could have said your feet up. You could have said your personality. But Jackie, my own parents never said that to me. And we've gotten into some arguments in our time. But my own parents have never said anything about Jackie. Because they know better. My roommate Taylor, we've gotten into some argument. My friend too. We were roommates and we're friends. We've gotten into some arguments in college. She would have never said anything about Jackie. So I'm not saying that my God doesn't play about me. I am. That's what I am saying. I was telling this to my cousin the other day, and she laughed. Like, it's not funny, but you take it, interpret it how you will. So I don't really hear from her the next day, as I'm not talking to her. So I apologize for hanging up the phone. Like I said, good person complex, just trying to be good. Just trying to do my best. Even then, she doesn't respond to me for like a whole day. And I'm just like, and then the next time, I think I hear from her once. And then the next time after that, she tells me her guinea pig dies. I don't think my God plays about me. I'm just saying. Like, she said he was sick. It's just rather timely. It's all I'm saying. Like, next time, keep your mouth shut before you speak something negatively or do something to me. Like, my God doesn't play about me. This is why the word says vengeance is his. Because when he repays, all right. So then the next time, we were going to go to Orlando. Obviously not. She cash asked me back her portion of the airfare that my parents said, because they were going to cover everything. My mom just said she can pay just half the airfare. Well, obviously, we're paying for the hotel, food, whatever. She wants a souvenir, bring her little pocket change. So that happened. So all of fall, by the way, then I get kicked out of my internship house because I'm passing out a lot. Whole other video. Woo! Whole other video. And I didn't think that was handled the best, because I was given like an illegal ultimatum, which was like, you either stay at the you're passing out, we don't have the capacity, which they're supposed to talk to your doctor, come up with a plan. They said you either stay, you either do remote work to the internship house, or you're out the internship program. That's illegal, by the way. And I did it, because I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So then, not only, so then that's December. Another thing that my therapist is like, which was, she has difficulty, she has to remind herself, she has to remind herself not to rejoice when bad things happen to me, and not to feel like I'm bragging when good things happen to me. And I was like, I told this to my therapist, and it has her shook to this day. And to this day, my therapist is like, I have to try and get that out of my head, because it's like, who says that? So then, fast forward, now we're in January 2021. She wants to meet with me, because I told her back then, like, she was jealous of me. That's why she said that. And then we met at a Starbucks by my house. And she said she had a notebook with her. And she went down the list. And she said, I'll read I actually have the journal, because I wrote down what she said when I came home. That's all. But basically, she was just saying that Jackie's not real. She's in the end. She basically doubled down on what she said. And then she ended it with a series of questions like, am I a good friend? You mentioned you were still mad about the club. Remember the club that actually she sabotaged? I had to disband the club because Joey and Bridget, the girl, were sabotaging by not showing up. But they literally ran into the ground where they left, and I couldn't do anything by myself. I can't run I can't run a club by myself. So they're doing all that. And then she had the nerve to ask me, am I a good friend? Are you still mad about what happened? Am I still mad that my reputation got trashed, and that everyone, including Dr. C, was talking negatively about me and saying I'm a control freak? And by the way, at UConn, I also got assaulted, and Dr. C was behind silencing the witnesses so they wouldn't report. And the person who assaulted me was like her, I'm trying to think of a Christian word to say her little b. Like, what's the Christian equivalent? Our lackey, basically. And it basically, he got away with it because she silenced the witnesses, and the school ruled in his favor, because it's like, well, we can't make a determination because we don't have witnesses. So it's his word against yours, your word against his. Even though he literally stole my lunch, dragged me across the floor, and then he sat on me and threatened my life. Like, sat on me. I made a YouTube video that called "A Fat Guy Stole My Lunch, Assaulted me, sat on me, and threatened my life." And it's a mukbang too, in case y'all want to know. So that all happened, then the thing, and then on top of that, I've never said this before, and this is what I'm about to say. Isn't so you could be like, see, this is why I don't go. But a lot of traumatic stuff then happened at my job, which is a church. And so much traumatic stuff. I mean, it was, y'all, You want to talk undermined? You want to talk every progress I've made? What if I was vindictive? What if I was vindictive and named individuals and what they did? But I'm not. I'm talking everything I built was undone. I started a youth conference, the first. I've never said this. I made a youth conference and the progress was undone. Like, I never did it. I was kicked off my own initiative several times. Undermined. Everything I build, it's like, why is this becoming undone? People working, like literally working, and yet it was always my fault for things. And when I tried to speak up and say, this is the reason why this is not done, is because I'm essentially being set up. I'm being set up to fail. I keep asking, and I'm being set up to fail, and it's like, but it's your responsibility. You need to handle it. Because I went from intern to event coordinator to manager. Because my boss was on leave, maternity leave. So I'm being set up to fail, and the way it looks is it's done in a way. I have to make a whole podcast or video about this, because and still pray on how to really talk about it, because it's not to say it's the expectation that is, if it's a church, you're going to be held to the standard of Christ. But boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. Because it's like sometimes people just use God for their own agenda, for their own, and this is why I'm not into legalism. I'm really developing my own relationship with God, and it completely changed my perspective of church. It made me see church as like this empty ritual, because I'm like, how are y'all praising God, reading chapters of the Bible in every organization, ministry head, yet you can't even do the basic thing, which is treat others the way you want to be treated? How are y'all getting, like I'm saying, y'all are saying, well, praising God, worshiping, running around the church. No, we don't do that at our church, because our churches got white people at our church. That's my theory. Y'all are over here doing stuff, but treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't cross your mind. Like that is what it means to love. And it's not penetrating. So I'm saying, how can you all call yourself a Christian? But then people literally would be like, coming to me and say like, oh, you don't really take criticism well. Like, you have to learn. And when I tell you I was vilified, this is why I'm like, I might as well just be the villain. Because the way I was vilified, I had to end up resigning early from my job. I wonder how this is going to impact me. I wonder people from like church, it doesn't matter, because if y'all want to talk to me, we can have a sit down and real talk. Or you know what, I don't have to address anything. I said what I said. Period. But and it wasn't everyone I worked with, but there were people, and I'm like, these were people who were just like, Deanna's annoying. I'm talking people who literally conspired against me, like undermined my like I would do something and it's like, I need you to give this to the boss. No, I need his approval. No. What I go to events and it's like, was this not done? And I'm scrambling like, oh my God, it wasn't done. As the day of the event is, I'm like, and it's just like, and it can never be traced back to them. It's always to me, because it looks, and I'm trying to explain, like, this wasn't me. And they're like, well, from the looks, I know how it looks, but this wasn't me. And I was just like, no matter how many times I tried to explain, and they're like, well, did you apologize? I get that a lot, like, when certain people would complain, like ministry, like, leaders, or some people like, Deanna's this, and I'm like, I'm literally just trying to help you. Well, you need to apologize, Deanna. Apologize? You're out of line. You need to know how to take criticism. You can't just commandeer an event. You can't just take it over. You have to and I'm like, there has to be some, like, y'all don't understand. Y'all really don't. Y'all don't understand. I've had multiple suicide attempts in my life, and that was one of them. That it was so bad, I was gonna kill myself. That's how bad it was. Because I'm like, I've had nothing but consistent pressure for 7 years. And then before that, with childhood trauma. So we went from childhood trauma. Let's wrap this up so I can talk to you about how what really is triggering me of late. We went through childhood trauma from the time I was old enough, so you're talking like 4 or 5, really 7 years old. Then I'm a dancer, by the way, so I'm dealing with an eating disorder to try and be thin, like the white girls at my school, right? So I'm bulimic, and I still struggle with bulimia. Boom. Then I got cancer. Boom. Then I got cancer again. Boom. Then we go to college, and we have all that. We have the assault. We have the my club and my reputation being dragged through the mud. I'm still fighting cancer. I'm nearly getting kicked out of UConn like 3 times. Boom. We got all of that to graduate, to take the friend that I thought was my friend back, and what happened? Just ran my relationship with Jackie into the ground. One of the most important relationships in my life. My mom got COVID and I thought she was gonna die. Then I start initiatives at my job which get pushed down to the ground, and everything gets pinned on me and not on the people who are doing the real dirt. Multiple suicide attempts in between these things. And now we're here trying to recover. What do y'all think I should do? Because if I was vindictive, I would obsess over these individuals that have hurt me and make sure their life was ruined. But I'm not, because I know God's going to take care of it. Because he has to. Because that's what he said he's going to do. I'm just saying to myself, I've been doing a lot of shadow work, which is what this video was supposed to be about. But I feel like y'all needed to hear, before I talk about that, I need to talk about that. Like, before I can talk about shadow work, I have to talk about the pain. So y'all just know, like, back to my work situation. You don't have, and it's like, I tried telling, I said, it's not me, it's the other people. It's not me. And it's like, sure it is. And it was a culture of doing things last minute. And I was coming in with these ideas, but like many people, my parents, my therapist, a lot of people, some random strangers I met at the St. Regis when I was getting afternoon tea, and they basically spoke into my life. I don't know if they were Christian, but they were really sweet. Shout out to them. A lot of it was jealousy because I'm young. I'm pretty. The other people's words, not mine. And I'm coming in with these new ideas, trying to do things in a more efficient way, which is like, you should want to do things in an efficient, like, God-honoring way, because doing things last minute and then being like, we shouldn't do things last minute, and then you do things last minute, and then it always ends up to the wire, and then we said we got to do things in excellence. Well, doing things in excellence means doing things in a timely manner. So you can't have both. And say, well, we need to improve this for these people and this for these to make their work experience. And it was like, why? And it's like, how do y'all say you want change? You're saying you want change, but then when someone is presenting an opportunity to change and a strategy, you reject it. So I'm like, y'all don't want to change. You just want to talk about how you want to change. I guess I'm going to have to make another podcast about shadow work and dark femininity and healing and that. Because I needed to just explain the foundation of why I'm through 2 things I have suppressed. 3, but well, 2. My anger. I am mad as hell Because now that I'm in the radical acceptance stage, which is radically accepting all that has happened to you, I've been doing a lot of shadow work, which is getting behind the side of you that people don't see, the side of you that you even don't show. So I'm going behind the side, like, what am I really? I'm so angry that all of this happened to me. I did not deserve any of it. Cancer was bad enough, right? College was going to be hard enough, right? But I didn't deserve my parents being so hard on me. Even though, by the way, I'm Jamaican. If that puts things into context, my parents are West Indian. They both came up here when they were young. My mom was 8, my dad was 12. And in the Black community, mental health is not something that we have a firm grasp because we don't know what it is to be mentally stable. And I say that in not because we're crazy, but we don't have a gauge of mental health because all we've ever been is in survival mode. So, of course, our mental, like, you think of since slavery, it's trauma. So there's no real processing what's happening to you because you're just trying to survive for generations. And then our grandparents they're just trying to, still survival mode. And then our parents come and it's like, okay, you have food, water, clothes. Not only that, you have iPad, MacBook, go on vacations. What is there to be mad about? Like, what is there to be sad? You have more than what we ever had. I'm not understanding why you're sad. And it's because they don't know. It creates a lot of problems. Now, we're doing the work, going to therapy. By the way, my parents and I, we're all in group therapy together. We'll probably do for another session. But we all are going to therapy together. So we're all getting healed. And they have individual therapists. Yeah, they're all understanding, like, okay, that was pretty messed up. And they've apologized. Let it be known that my parents have apologized several times, and they're over, and they're doing their best now to help me recover. So it's not like they're just still in denial, like, no, it's your fault. But I'm now feeling angry still. Like, even though they've apologized, I still feel angry because I'm like, I didn't allow myself to feel. I wasn't allowed to be angry when I got cancer. Y'all understand? Like, I wasn't, literally, I remember when I found out I had my 4th stage, my recurrence, and I was in the car, and I basically started screaming, like, ah, like, Mom, stop talking, like going off, because I'm like, I just went through this. And my mom was like, Deanna, you can vent, but you're not going to project your anger out to me. And I wasn't projecting my anger. I was just talking. I was venting because it's like, I basically got what I thought was a death sentence. I wasn't allowed to be angry. I remember I had a family member tell me it was not a death sentence. Like, you got cancer, not a death sentence. But it's like, that's what, you hear you have 4-stage cancer. I mean, it kind of feels like a death sentence, right? I've been so restrained my entire life. I never went off. I'd never done anything. I never repaid evil for evil. The amount of pressure my parents put on me, even when I was going through treatment, I remember my mom was like, you got to push yourself academically. You're not pushing yourself enough. You're not pushing yourself enough. So much so, I was not allowed to go to my junior prom because while I had treatment, because they're like, you're just, because you're not. And I'm just like, I'm sick. She's like, yeah, but you were like this before you had cancer. Like, no awareness. They are aware now that what they did was wrong, but there was no awareness. And I couldn't say, but mom, but dad, but nothing. But nothing. What we say is obviously the truth because we're the parents. So, yeah. I've just been very restrained my entire life. I never got to be angry the way I wanted to be angry. There was nothing for me to be angry about. Or people from church who are like, don't cry. Give God the glory. I'm like, I'm going to do both. I'm a multitasking queen. I can do both. Because if I had to, if every time I was sad it meant I didn't honor God, I would never honor God. Like, what's wrong with y'all? And then there's the whole Christians lacking understanding about mental health. Like, Like, just because you're sad doesn't mean you're not, like, honoring God. I'm not understanding. Or just because you're angry doesn't mean you don't honor the Lord. It depends on what you do with your anger or your sadness. But I don't have time to explain the full extent of my relationship with mental health in church. It sounds like another podcast episode. But I have in my notes. Because y'all, you should know I always got some notes. I got my laptop. I got my laptop with me. So always know I got some notes on me. Even though I'm going to end up going off when I need to. But it's like other people I have here could quite literally yell, kick, and scream. But I had to be calm and collect in my dealings, or I'm out of line. I've experienced this at home, at school, at church, at work. And it's like other people could go off, but when you go off, you didn't went too far. I'm talking, I've always been the student, like in school, that when the teacher is like, when the teacher is like saying silent reading or whatever, and someone's like, Deanna, just as loud as the Deanna, they don't hear the loud ass whisper, Deanna. But when I'm like, shh, I'm trying to read. Sorry. Got choked up. But when they hear me say, shh, I'm just trying to focus. Deanna, go write your name on the board. What? Actually, go write your name on the board again. That's 10 minutes off your recess for talking back. I said, you didn't hear them? Now, you want to make it 15? I'm like, what? So, I'm very angry. I don't get a chance to be angry. I've never had a chance, and it's new. So I'm experiencing almost kind of like rage, and I'm trying to think of a good outlet. I do martial arts, and that helps. And I go to the gym, and that helps. But as painful as it is, it can't undo what was done, and that's both like assuring and very sad. I'll make a whole other video about how I've repressed sexuality, because that's another emotion. I feel like they can kind of intersect. You can make that connection, but I don't got time to explain that. Not in this podcast. I'm on my healing journey now, and yeah. There's so much I want to tell y'all. I can make this podcast as long as I want, but I gotta go eat. Plus, I'm doing if for my channel update, and if you're finding me from Deanna Speaks and you want to subscribe to Glow and Peace, if you like this kind of content, I do not just talks. I'm known for hair videos, but I do so much more. I do travel content. I do talks. I do cooking. I'm a no niche influencer content creator. So Jackie and I go on our little adventures together. If you're listening to this, I recommend you watch this video and watch others so you can see Jackie. Jackie's like, somebody commented, Jackie serves every video, and look at this. She's wagging because she's happy. Look at this dinosaur fit. You're not seeing Jackie East, right? She said, yeah. I'm going to set her down right here. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jackie. I'm sorry. She was resting. So, I guess I'll end it here. I hope you guys got more insight to my anger. Yeah, sometimes I won't end this video here. I take it back. I want to add, I don't have any real, like, close friends that I feel comfortable sharing my pain with. And I've been going through this all by myself. And people will tell you, like, you could tell me, but you really don't want to know. Because if I'm really honest with you, you're like, that's too much. My own parents, after a while, were like, this is above us. See a therapist. I've been the emotional support without being emotionally supported. I've been the listener that has never been heard. Do you know how painful that is? I've been at the receiving end of someone venting their anger, but unable to vent mine. Because I'm supposed to just take a licking and keep on ticking. And it's probably one of the saddest, loneliest, hurtful experiences of my life. And people say, like, you can tell me things, but I really can't. Because after a while, it'll become an annoyance to you. It wouldn't be for me, but it would be for you. So, I don't want to end it on this note, but it's going to have to end. Because it's like, I don't know how else to tell y'all. I'm angry. And if I could tell anyone who's ever hurt me anything, I would say you picked the wrong one. Not because I'm going to get you. I don't have to do anything. But, and this podcast episode is coming. This one, I'm going to reference this about being chosen. When you're chosen by God, your life is not going to be typical. My life has been nothing but typical. Actually, all my life I've been told you have an anointing on your life, you're chosen. And people toss those words around like, they just toss them around like for flavoring, for season, for sentence seasoning, right? But you don't really know what it means to be chosen. Because when you're chosen, you really don't want to be. Because when you're chosen, you walk a life, you live a life that is unlike anyone else's and have to endure experiences unlike anyone else's. And I'm not saying every person who's had to struggle is chosen, but it is a mark of those who are. Because I know many people who go through things, but where was God in the midst of them or in their struggles, right? God wasn't really the center, or they just say, oh, I thank God for helping me out, but you really didn't depend on him. You didn't come to really know him. This is people who know God or no. And, I've actually met a lot of people who say they're not Christians, but their life reflects more of Christ than those who say they are Christians and are not. Because I don't care what you have to say. Undermining someone, conscious or unconscious, is not the mark of a believer. You should have enough discernment. You've read enough of the Word of God to know that's wrong. But you feel justified in your way because you're using the Word of God to justify your actions. Like, it almost feels like you feel like you're almost above God, because it's like I'm in alignment with him. You can't be in alignment and hurt people willfully. Like, it's one thing if you don't know that what you're doing is hurtful, and I'm talking like, and there's a fine line, because it's like, I didn't know stabbing her in the back and talking about her behind people's back was actually going to hurt her feelings. I'm talking like maybe you said something or you were doing something truly, and you truly didn't realize the impact it had on someone. But there are people who do things to you. They know what they're doing is wrong. They're doing it anyway because they don't like you. And consequences be damned. Yet still say they love the Lord and they honor him. It's like you're willfully hurting this person, but you're a Christian. And there's no repentance because you didn't do anything wrong. You felt justified. Like you repent when you feel convicted. You apologize to someone when you feel convicted. But there's none of that because you did nothing wrong. They had it coming, essentially. So I was thought about, what could I say to someone who's hurt me? Like, I'm not gonna beat you up because you're not worth going to jail over. Though Jackie had me nearly leaping across the table with Bridget. In my mind, I was like, I might go to jail for Jackie. She had one more thing out of her mouth about Jack. You don't know. People really don't know they're this close to me going mother freaking oops upside their head. Like, they don't know. They don't know. So I would say to those people, you messed with the wrong one. That I don't have to repay. That in a way I do forgive you. And I'm in the process of forgiveness because it's for me, not for you. And in my process of forgiveness, feelings do come up, right? But my grandmother used to say, when the bomb comes, the bomb is judgment. When it comes, you should have really thought about what you did. The thing about it is, I don't want to say they thought, because to say that means it's impulsive. They really thought about how they were going to unravel my life. Like, that's the thing. They put effort. It wasn't impulsiveness. They planned. There are people, the ops in my life have planned, have been meticulous. I'm just going to let the Lord have his way. Because y'all don't know the impact you've had on my life. Actually, you have. That's why you did it. And you might think you've gotten away. I don't care if it's today, if it's tomorrow, the next day, them days after that, your children, your grandchildren. Somebody is going to pay for what was done. It's not a curse. I don't curse people. I'm speaking facts. You literally reap what you sow. You should have been more careful what you sowed into my life. Because now I'm in a season of reaping the pain. The Word of God says those who sow in tears will reap in joy. And I'm reaping. I'm starting to see, like when I tell you I'm in healing, which means this means the worst of my life is over. And I'm experiencing a true open heaven of blessings. Like 2023 is really going to be my year. One of many, but it's going to be like, it's already an iconic year for the blessings and the opportunities I've been given. And I'm literally reaping what I sowed in tears, what I sowed in my pain, what I sowed having cancer, going through this, going through the club, being assaulted, all this being faithful. Not saying I was like, I'm reading my Bible every day. Like, really having an honest relationship with the Lord. I'm not the type of person who's going to read chapters of the Bible. Not because I'm like a day. Like, I read the word more intuitively now. Like, there are times the Holy Spirit's like, you need to sit there and read. And it's never chapters. Because God is so intentional with his words. He's so intentional that one verse has me stuck. Like, I'll read one verse and be like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Breaking it down. Look at, like, that's how so 2 to 3 verses for me. If you are a new Christian, I would recommend you read the word daily. And I probably need to start reading it more daily because in my healing journey and a lot of things are coming up, and I know the enemy can use all my negative feelings to overshadow the positive emotions I'm experiencing too. So I need to really make sure, but it's not reading just to say you're reading. It's reading to apply to your life. That's the point. It's not to amass biblical knowledge. Baby, I don't care if you know the Bible in Greek, Spanish, Latin, Aramaic, Klingon, don't matter. If you're not applying it to your life, I don't care. It don't matter. It don't even matter to the Most High. Because what was the point of reading, going to seminary, or reading, going to this Bible program and this, that, and the other thing if you weren't going to apply the word to your life? You're just wasting everybody's time, including the Most High. Because why are you playing? Or you know all this and all that, but you treat people disrespectfully. So, yeah. I don't know how I got on that, but I'm glad I mentioned it. So, yes. I'm not going to worry too much. It's at times I think, like, I wish they got in trouble. But God has never failed me. He has never failed me. He has never left me, nor has he ever forsaken me. He has never, because I'm here. I could have died the first time. Like, imagine if we never found out I had the tumor, and then it ruptured, and then it spread then, and we just never knew. Unless I had the pain, right? Or let's say when my diagnosis, let's say there was no naturopathic doctor that had actual who was credible and had actual scientifically concrete answers to help, then what? Suppose I was a different person entirely and I didn't fear the Lord. What would my life have been? Consumed by bitterness and guilt and revenge, rather than enjoying my life the way I am now and being able to start this podcast to share my story with y'all. I don't know if this encouraged y'all. I don't know if this blessed y'all. I don't know if it made you laugh. I don't know if you made it, we're like, I want to hear from this girl again. I don't know. But this, I guess this podcast, like my YouTube channel, is like, it goes with my life. So there will be updates. There will be, there might be podcast episodes where I'm just screaming. We're talking very calmly. Maybe I'll tell y'all when I start dating. I've never dated. That's the thing I said. So I've been through all this, a pandemic, cancer, all that, betrayal, trust, undermining, but I've never had a boyfriend. Oh, okay, God, I see you. Because when the husband comes, he's going to look good. He's going to be wealthy. It's what I deserve. I'm worthy of that. Amen. I'm worthy of having a loving spouse. Amen. I'm worthy of having wealth and beauty, which I have, but more of it, of a successful business. I'm worthy of these things. Something in the next episode of this podcast we'll talk about. I believe it is church hypocrisy. And if we slide over to the notes, it's about hypocrisy. It's about the layers of church hypocrisy and how the church, one of the layers of it is a, it's called the church culture is antichrist, which sounds controversial. It could be. You know, I like to give a little, a little something in my videos, but it's about hypocrisy and how the church has a subliminal diminishing of self-worth that is against like what the Word of God tells, like, and it's rooted in like white supremacy, and it's rooted in other things. I'm actually very excited for that next episode, which I am gonna film after this, because I'm trying to be better at. When you guys see, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I was gonna make a formal video announcement, and I might, but just heads up, I'm doing 30 days. I'm doing an April post-a-thon where I'm posting every day in April. I'm mainly saying this so there's accountability. What I have to say in this posting, but I'm really excited for that. So all these episodes are going to be, I think you'll see this podcast episode before April, but there will be a 30-day post-a-thon. So I will post a calendar, or I'll post the videos upcoming for the week. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I am going to do it. So get pumped, for the consistency, for the content coming, and then I'm going to take a week off and then go back to the twice weekly. So yeah, that's basically it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed Deanna Speaks. I'm Deanna. Jackie is here too. We both love you, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Just another sunny day in Southern California. It's where the people came to play. Don't let them transform.